I keep it very simple. Like my thing is do the simplest thing that will give you the biggest result. And
Yes.
if for you, like for me, for example, I have my camera set up here all the time. I don't ever move it. It just sits there, right? And I have everything set up. I even have this thing if I want to go on my phone, this thing, like I just have it right there. I don't have to think about it. If I'm ever inspired to create any piece of content just on the spot because I just feel inspired to do it, I don't have to like take so much time to get ready. I'll just put on a hat. If I don't have my hair ready, I'll just jump in and just turn on the camera and just start recording. And so that is the path of least resistance. And so when you have something that you know, like every time you press record, that it was always going to look good because the lighting is there or you're next to a window or your camera is set up, you don't have to spend any time trying to get ready or trying to get your thoughts together because you already have it there. And especially if you have your messaging down, which I know is what you teach a lot, when you have that, it just makes it so much easier just to go because you already have those pieces there in front of you just to start talking and communicate your message.
All right, friends, welcome to another episode of the Heather Sager Show. I am super thrilled for today's conversation because I have been stalking this guy online for months since I saw him in a program that we're in together, and I knew I had to be friends with him. So Michael Moore, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Heather. This is an honor. I'm super excited to talk and chat all things video.
Yes, all things video. We met pretty recently. We're in a program together, kind of jamming out of how to build evergreen funnels, figuring out how to be better marketers online. And I feel like stars kind of align that we do similar things, but kind of go about things a little differently. So I love that we've developed, I don't know the right word is a bromance because I'm not a pro, but I feel like we've been having some fun, like keeping track of each other's stuff, cheering each other on. I love what you're doing online. So let's start there. Tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do, but like the short, punchy version.
Yes. Well, I'm a video strategist. I help online entrepreneurs use videos, confidently share their message online, because when they can do that, they can have more impact and, of course, more income. So that is what I do.
Yes, I love it. And you, I don't know if this is true, but it's kind of what you and I talked about. What really drew me to you is, well, number one, you make awesome reels.
Yes.
I love your reels. They're so great to follow. So anyone listening, if you follow me on Instagram, you know I don't make reels. It's not because I'm against them. It's because I still do not have the reels feature on Instagram, which is driving me bonkers. So I'm living vicariously through you. So I'm curious, is short form content, like in video, is that really like your specialty and what you gravitate toward? Or was that something that you just like happened upon because it was a new feature?
Well, it was both, right? I love short form content just in general. And I don't know what your definition of short form is. I like 1 minute to 2 minutes, but if you can get a message down in like 5-15 seconds, well, that's great too. So when that feature came out, I was like, well, let's just try it. You know, like let's try and see what we can do and be creative with it. Cause it's just another way to engage or interact with your audience if they don't want to watch, you know, a 1 minute, 2 minute video. So yeah, it was fun to do.
Yeah, I think there are two types of people in the world who like speak and communicate for a living. There are the people who are really good at getting their message like distilled in that like little punchy one-liner. And then there are the people who like to talk for a while. And I happen to be in the latter category. So it takes a lot of energy for me to be like, how the hell would I say this in 15 seconds? It's hard. Where do you fall on the spectrum?
That is so funny because I'm on the other side. Like for me, I keep things short. So for me to expand for like an hour, that's tough for me. So that's why I kind of like doing the shorter form content because it fits in my lane and I do it really well. So yeah, and I encourage my clients to do it too, just because you want to get to the point sometimes. So yeah, to keep it short is awesome. That's kind of where I fall into.
I love that. And, you know, I think just kind of thinking this out loud, that's maybe where we complement each other is because we both do video, but we do different kinds of videos. So for me, it's a little bit more long form. I'm talking more about guest speaking in other people's businesses, doing more like keynotes from virtual stages, doing Facebook Lives that are more teaching based. I'm still working my way into those like shorter, punchy things. How I have to do that is we take my longer form content and we create bites down into the short thing because me trying to create a 1 minute video is like torture.
That's awesome.
I'm just curious, do you do guest speaking and stuff inside other people's programs?
I do. Yes. It's fun. It's very fun just because when it comes to video, there's there are so many different topics you can go, right? Like there's for some people, they fit in the category of, I could never do that. I could never put my face in front of the camera and just go, right? There's just like the fear of pressing that record button. And so just going that direction is a great topic. And for some, it's just like, well, how do I get some of this technical stuff to even work, right? Like the camera, the wires, the mic, like all of this, the technical stuff kind of gets confusing. So it's just cool to kind of have those little topics. And then of course, strategy too. So yeah, like I love doing the guest teaching.
Yeah. Do you find there's a topic that people request the most that they think they really need, but it's actually not what they need, but it's kind of like give them what they need, or what they want, but then later you're going to give them what they need. I don't know. I have a couple of those topics that come to mind. I'm curious.
Yes.
For you.
Yeah. For many people, because the biggest hang up is the tech stuff, right? It's like, how do I actually make my videos look good? Do I need to use this light? Should I use this microphone? Do I need to get this camera? And it's very technical, right? Do I need to, how should I edit this? And, yes, you probably should know how to do that, or at least outsource that, or know how to at least put it together. But the big thing that they really should be focusing on is actually what they're saying, right? Because like, what they say is important, and how they actually communicate and talk about their offers is important. And so I think the biggest hang up for a lot of people is the technical stuff, which is what they really want to know. And so that's why a lot of my topics go in that direction, because it appeals to that. And that's what gets people attention.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, but once they're in my world, it's like, all right, let's focus on strategy here, because this is really what's going to take your business to the next level.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I totally agree with that piece. Like that's what we jam on all day long. It's you can get the stage opportunities, but it's about what you talk about on that stage, how you communicate, for sure. There's a good lesson. So a lot of people who are listening to the show, they're thinking about doing more guest speaking. They're trying to figure out their signature talk. I think a lot of people get caught up in the topic, but what you just described, I think is super helpful to hear it in action. This idea is we have to listen to what people are stuck with and what they're asking for. And even though we know ultimately that's not the make or break it, if we keep ignoring it and like shoving what we want to talk about at them, one, we're not going to get guest speaking gigs. And two, people aren't really going to be engaged because in their head, they're still caught up in that one hurdle they have. So I love that you described that. Let's talk about the tech piece, because that is one of the conversations I want to have today. That is not my area of expertise, but I'm like, figure it out as we go. I always laugh. I'm like, stop overcomplicating it, people. I did like 2 years in my business with a Logitech webcam and a Yeti microphone, and I felt fancy. Like literally what I'm still using right now as I'm staring at you. I just added a box light over here because I moved away from the window. Like, nice. But I know people freak out over it. Like, what are some of your recommendations when people are like, oh, I just don't know? Like, what recommendations do you give on getting started besides, you just use the damn camera?
Right. I love this question because, and what I always ask other people is, which do you think is more important? Do you think it's the camera, or do you think it's the lighting? Between the two, which one do you think is more important? And the majority of people would say, okay, yeah, it's the lighting that's probably more important. The camera, maybe not so much, even though, we just want it to look good, of course, but maybe the lighting is way more important. But every time I ask this question, I'm obviously kind of, I'm being sneaky with it, because it's neither, actually.
Yeah, being sneaky.
Right. So what I think is actually more important is the audio and the space. And those are the two things that most people actually don't even consider when it comes to creating videos, because they're more concerned of, I just want to look good on camera. But if your audio is terrible, right? Like it just sounds bad. I mean, if you just use a simple mic, that'll help. But if your audio is terrible, people are just gonna click off the video or not even want to pay attention to and listen in what you're saying. And then if the space, especially if they're watching you, if the space is all over the place, or it's like crooked, or like it's like really just, maybe you're too up against the wall, it's just not gonna look good to the eye. And so if you have a good space and you have good sound, that's going to be way better for you. Because right now I'm not using any lights. And so we're doing this over video right now, but I'm not using any lights. I'm just next to a window. And so something like that can benefit you if you're not, if you don't want to spend, a couple $100s on a light. You could just be next to a window, which is super awesome.
Yeah. I totally agree. I always laugh. Everyone always, for years, asked me about my lighting. I'm like, literally a window right there.
Right.
I had to switch my office setup recently, so I am now farther away from the window because I wanted my home edit bookcase situation behind me. I wanted a better set. So I had to use the forced lighting, but I didn't get that ring. I think I bought a ring light and I kept it in the box for over 6 months. It was
Yeah.
the lighting piece. I love though that you talked about, so the audio, I mean, I think about that, but I don't really, it's funny. I would think about that more considering I have a hearing loss and wear hearing aids. But I know bad audio quality, but honestly, I don't really think about the difference between when people are talking Rode mics and having that like switcher thingy on their, I don't even know what that thing's called, but like all that, I'm like, I don't know. Just like my standard is it crappy or is it fine? That's my standard on that. But my favorite thing about what you just talked about was the set. Because I do see that, when people are scrolling online and they see a video, the sound's off, right? So it's the first thing they see and they see you, but they see where you are. And there's this aspirational quality that happens when people see your brand. They're like, do I resonate with that? Do I want a brand like that? So talk a little bit about what you think makes a good set. Because like you have a beautiful like greenery behind you. If you guys are watching right now on YouTube, really simple, but really light and airy. For me, I have a bookcase with a lot of trinket things, a home edit, rainbow organized books. I think people do get caught up because they don't know what to do. Like, what are some of the recommendations you give people for like what makes a good setup?
Yes. So a part of this setup, and it's called I call it the BU method. And it's really what it is. B stands for background and U stands for everything that has to do with you, which is lighting, camera, and audio. But for the reason I do this is because the background, if you focus on the background, I have a filmmaking background. So any videographer or any cinematographer that walks into a room before they film, the first thing they think about before, the actors walk into the room is where are they going to shoot? Like, what is going to be in the background? What are they going to see in the back? And most people are like, wait, why are they focusing on that? That's weird. Like, bring the actor in first. No, they focus on the background first because that's going to show and communicate something. And so there's like two things that you're communicating. It's what you're communicating and then what you're communicating in the background. Like, it's like what people are feeling from it. And so when you consider about the background, does it match up with your brand, your aesthetic? Does it match with the quality of the content that you're putting out? And so my background is kind of blurry, but I have like cameras in the background because that matches kind of what I do.
Yeah.
My wife actually put those plants back there. So I'm like, I guess I'll keep the plants.
Good job, honey. Good job.
Yes. And so, but I like it, we literally, our place is full of plants right now. So it's just like, it's out of control. It's like a forest. So we just kept like 3 of them in there.
She said she was doing it to make your background prettier, but really to find a place to put the plants.
Exactly. But yeah, you're communicating something with your background. So if let's say you're a finance coach or you're relationship coach, what can you put in the background that kind of communicates that? Maybe you have a heart LED in the background if you're a relationship coach or something, or you have if you're a big family or relationship person, maybe you have pictures of your family and stuff like that. But you can communicate something with your background, and a lot of that plays into like when people watch you, what they're perceiving, right? How are they interpreting what you're pushing out there? And so if they can connect on a visual level quickly like that, then you already have a foot in the door, right? People are already going to start paying attention to you. And so, the background is a big focus of communicating your essence and how you feel and how you want to communicate like what you are and what you do. And so, I would focus heavily on the background for a lot of people.
I agree with this a lot. And I think it's really easy to use the excuse of, well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Just get started. Right. And while I do agree with that, I tend to attract, you probably do too in your community, I tend to attract high achievers. So for me, people who have already had established careers and now they're starting the online space. And there's this like weird gap that happens of people who've already experienced career success. They have expectations for quality of things, how things get done and how quickly they can take action on things. And then they hit the online space and they're like, I know nothing. And there's this level of frustration. So when we talk about like, just get started, my approach from the beginning was, yes, I'm going to get started, but I'm going to do it with high quality. Because I know I'm just going to be a beginner for a very short time period because I'm a high performer. I've kicked butt before, I'll do it again. So for me, I had a really high bar of saying, why not have a pretty set from the start? And that looked for me, you can't see it right now, but in some of my other videos, this whole wall behind me is covered with foam tiles that look like white brick that I bought for $50 off Etsy. That was the first thing I did. I'm like, I got $100 to spend. What can I buy? So I bought foam tiles and hung pictures that I stole from our living room. And
Yes.
like that for me, I'm like, I'm lucky to have an extra bedroom in our house. So I made an office. Not everybody has a separate dedicated space, but just spending that time of going, if I'm going to get uncomfortable getting on video, I may as well have a dedicated space to do it. Because I think a lot of people who start, they're like, oh, I'm just going to start and see how it goes. If you don't have a space to do it, and if you're not treating your set seriously, I think they're going to give up and they're going to be like, oh, it didn't work for me, or oh, I don't have time for it. So I think there's a bigger motivator there that says somebody who pays attention, they don't have to have a fancy set, but they have to have a dedicated place where they're thinking about these things. That says they're going to be around for a while and they're actually going to do the work.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, exactly. I love that you touched on that because it's when you put out something, and I totally hear it, because a lot of people say, just pick up your phone and just start recording and just do it. Like, and I agree, because there are some people who, they just need to take action and start doing something. Otherwise, they're just going to be in their head forever and they'll never do it. And so, yeah, I do agree with that. But also at the same time, it's like when you actually raise the bar of the level of your quality of your content and how it looks, it already, like, you're already miles ahead of a lot of people, like people who don't take their online presence seriously, right? And they're the ones who kind of get drowned out in the sea of noise, right? If everyone is filming everything on their phone and everything looks the same, how are you going to differentiate yourself? And so when you actually take the time to, put together a nice background or at least look presentable on camera, then you're gonna be no one is going to have to second guess whether they should listen to you or not, because you've already set the bar of what visual quality looks like. And so, yes, I love that you said that. And then also the second part of this, which is why, like, I keep it very simple. Like, my thing is, do the simplest thing that will give you the biggest result. And yes. If for you, like for me, for example, I have my camera set up here all the time. I don't ever move it. It just sits there, right? And I have everything set up. I even have this thing if I want to go on my phone. This thing, like, I just have it right there. I don't have to think about it.
You're pulling down for if you're listening, it's like a tripod little arm that comes down for your phone, right?
Yes, exactly. So I have it like tied to my desk. So if I'm ever inspired to create any piece of content just on the spot because I just feel inspired to do it, I don't have to like take so much time to get ready. I'll just put on a hat. If I don't have my hair ready, I'll just jump in and just turn on the camera and just start recording. And so that is the path of least resistance. And so when you have something that like every time you press record, that it was always going to look good because the lighting is there, or you're next to a window, or your camera is set up, you don't have to spend any time trying to get ready or trying to get your thoughts together because you already have it there. And especially if you have your messaging down, which I know is what you teach a lot, when you have that, it just makes it so much easier just to go because you already have those pieces there in front of you just to start talking and communicate your message. And so that's why I always have just, hey, do the simplest thing that gives you the biggest result. Just set it up once and forget about it.
I'm having this dorky moment where I'm like, I hope people are listening, actually taking notes on this.
Yes.
Like, especially anyone hanging around here, if they come across this video, they have an interest in doing this, right? Like, this is gold. There's this, my favorite quote ever is by Will Rogers, which is, just because it's common sense doesn't mean it's common practice. And I think a lot of times, especially in this online space, people are just thinking like, oh yeah, I already know that. Oh, I already know I'm supposed to do this. Oh yeah, I know I'm supposed to make it easy. Oh yeah, I already know. But I'm like, but do you? Like, are you, just because you know, does it mean that you're actually doing it? And I think what we're talking about here, when you describe these things around, make it easy for yourself, have a beautiful set, reduce the barriers. These are the differences between people who are showing up as a hobby business, struggling to make money online without a ton of effort, versus the people who are treating it like a business, the people who are a pro. I think that's the difference. You have to figure out, you can have the low bar expectations of just get myself on video. I want you to like jump that hurdle fast. Like, let's just stop talking about being scared to get on video and just start. And now start saying, how can I make it better? And I know that's a little controversial. And I know I'm quoted of saying, just get started and then make it better. But I hope you're following me. Like, you got to move through that quickly if you have a higher level of ambition.
Yeah, I like 100%. Like, I agree with that, because once you set the quality of it, you set the standard for everyone else, right? I think about the client experience, right? When people get into your world, if you're gonna buy a Tesla and you expect the outside to look like a Tesla and the inside to look like a Tesla, but if you buy the Tesla and on the inside it looks like like a 2005 Ford Focus, which is what the car that I used to have and the car that I got married in.
I had a 2001 Ford Focus.
No way. Yes, that car was, ooh man, it was on its last leg. But if I bought a Tesla, but on the inside it looked like a Ford, I'd be pretty bummed, right? You expect a high quality car if you're going to get a Tesla like that. And so that is what we're doing, is we're setting the expectation. We're setting what we're attracting the right types of clients with that, right? So if you take your brand seriously, you take your business seriously, and you reflect that through your content, well, you're going to start to attract people who take their brands or their business seriously. And so that's why I think it's really important, and we shouldn't say, hey, content, what you're saying is more important than the visual quality. They should both be up there. They should both be priority in what you're putting out there.
I totally agree. Beautiful metaphor, by the way. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's talk about phones, because I think it's easy to say, okay, have whatever the stationary camera, have your things. The reality is, like, we all have cameras. I get this question all the time. You probably do too. Like, I have an iPhone 11 or I have a whatever, which has a really good camera. Like, can I really use that to make my course videos? Or can I really use that to do more than Instagram stories? And I really, this is one of the big reasons why I brought you on here today, because let me just give you the full disclaimer. I love my iPhone. I love the video it creates. For the love of cheese, I cannot get the videos off of it because I'm not a Mac user. I'm a PC user. So I struggle trying to, like, I just shot a 4-minute IGTV and I can't upload it to Dropbox, and it drives me bonkers. So I just give up. So I am not the pro with phone video, but I know this is an area where you excel. So let's talk about, I'm like unpacking a lot on you right now with my emotional my phone. I'm like slightly jealous about the phone thing, which maybe we could figure it out. But I know this is something that there's a lot of capabilities with the phone. So I want to go here and stay here for a bit, because this is going to be a really good conversation. So tell me about the phone and let's unpack it.
Yes. So like between the phone and a camera, right? Like when a lot of people are asking, is it okay that I use my phone? And I say, yes, just use your phone if you have it, right? If it's already in your pocket, you have a camera, let's just go with the phone that you have. And so I have like 5 really simple hacks, tips, and they're all free, by the way, to help you.
Pen,
yes, they're free, and they're gonna take your videos to a whole another level. Okay, yes. So
I got my pen out. I am ready.
So number 1, because because everyone has the same, or most people have like maybe an iPhone or a phone that has a pretty good camera typically, and so if we all have the same camera, you could do this too. So the first thing, number 1, is to create depth in your shot. Okay. What do I mean by depth? Okay. So let's say you decide, I'm going to film against this backdrop. Number 1, wherever your backdrop is, maybe 5 steps away from that wall, that background. Just create some depth between you and the wall. And so when you do that, it's going to allow you to pop out in the camera a whole lot better than if you're straight up against the wall. If your back is up against the wall, it's going to look flat. Right. And depending on where the light is, it might not even be the best spot in the room. So if you could step away from the wall, pop out from the camera, from the wall, that's going to just put you miles ahead of everyone else. It's going to look a whole lot better. Don't look flat against the wall. Create some depth between you and the wall. So that's number 1. Number 2, depending on what camera you have, most cameras, I'd probably say 90% of them, most cameras, the rear facing camera is actually way better than the camera that you see if you're going to take a selfie, for example. So if you're taking a selfie, that camera is probably not as good as the one that's on the back. So as annoying as it might be, if you were to flip your phone around where you can't really see yourself, if you film with that camera, it's going to look a whole lot better. It's not going to be as pixelated or blurry or, just has like a weird artifacts that are coming up in the screen. Yeah. So if you use the rear facing camera, that's going to be a lot better.
And people won't get distracted by looking at their own faces, which means they'll actually, this is my biggest pet peeve, maintain eye contact with the camera lens. So yes. I love that. Love that.
Yes, that is definitely going to help with eye contact because you only have one place to look at.
Yeah.
Okay, so the third tip, okay, is to keep your phone straight. So if your phone is crooked to one side, like to the left side or to the right side, it's just going to look weird and it's just going to feel awkward. But chances are, if you've watched, people are scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, there's when you see a video and for some reason it just feels right. It just fit into place and you can't really explain it. It's probably because the camera was straight. Okay. It's like the camera was level. Now you can also tilt it, right? But I wouldn't tilt too far forward or too far back, especially underneath where it's like you're looking under your face. Like that's never flattering. Yeah. But if you want to, go ahead, go in front of you and then kind of tilt a little bit down, you could do that. But I wouldn't go too crazy with it where you're seeing the floor. But if you could try to keep the camera straight as possible, that's going to look.
Okay. So when you're meaning straight, originally I was thinking framing, right?
Yes, exactly.
But you're also talking about like, if you're holding your phone, I'm going to describe this visual. So if anybody's not watching, if you are holding your phone, you're also talking about this piece where the camera may be coming back and forth. I'm just going to jump in on here real quick. One of the things that I noticed, because you mentioned that down angle, I like a little down angle, but only camera height is like right at eye level or like a little bit higher with a little down angle. The thing that I see a lot of people doing is they do the down angle, like they hold the camera way up high because they see other influencers online do it. But then they're videoing their lap.
Right.
And their elbows, which sounds really weird. I'm going to freak out about elbows, but it's like, people don't need to see your elbows and your waist. Like if you're sitting down, it creates awkwardness where you don't know where to look. Random side note. Let me go here for a moment. I recently just saw Matthew McConaughey. This is so weird. Matthew McConaughey just had this video online about, I don't know, some fundraiser or something that's happening. And this video is somebody else shooting him, but he's just talking off the cuff on the video. But the shot goes to mid-thigh. And
oh my goodness.
Beautiful Matthew McConaughey is wearing, I swear, mom jeans. Like mom jeans where there's like a lot of bunching around his manhood. And it's just very awkward. So I'm like watching this video and the whole time I'm going, I don't notice this right out of the gate. The whole time I'm like, why is this weird? Why do I feel uncomfortable around Matthew McConaughey? I love him. And then I scroll to the comments and somebody's like, oh my gosh, why is he wearing mom jeans? And I'm like, that's what's wrong. So side note, like it was the one outfit choice, but two, the framing of it was very distracting. It just led to this like, what's happening? So that's my little side tangent on your tip number 3. I thought that was a very weird story, but oddly appropriate to what you're talking about.
Yes, that is awesome. I love that. Yeah, because when you start to film other things, like if you're tilted too down, you're filming the floor. It's like, oh, what kind of shoes is he wearing or is she wearing? It's just you're getting the audience to ask way too many questions when they should be focused on what you're saying.
That's powerful right there. You're getting the audience to ask way too many questions. Like that's gold. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, keep that camera on you.
Okay, I love it.
4th tip. Okay, so this is free, right? So people say, what light should I buy? I'm like, hey, you don't need to, you can buy a light and you totally can. So if you want to film in a room where maybe there's no window for whatever reason, then you totally can get a light and do that. But for most people, you can get a really great results by getting really close to a window, right? If you're just next to the window, I wouldn't put your back to the window because now your face is in shadow, right? But if you're facing the window or the window's really close to you, that is going to give this very soft light on your face. And that is what we all want. We want to get rid of those wrinkles. We just want this nice soft light on our face. And getting next to a window, especially if it's like nice natural fall off light. If you look out the window and you can actually see the sun, that's probably not the best time because that sun's gonna be blaring right in your face. Yeah. But if let's say the sun is above the building and you're getting this natural light that's just flooding into the room and it's soft, that's gonna look great, especially if you're next to the window. So get close to the window every time you record with your phone.
Yeah, I love that you clarified that it's more like they call it diffused light in the photography world, right? Where we're not talking direct sunlight. That's not good. You get sweaty, you get squinty. That's not the right light. It's the diffused light where it's coming at you, but it's not like directly beaming on you, which that is one thing to think about. I know for me, like my window, I would have to track when does the sun shine directly in my window? So I would not schedule live streams or interviews at that time if I was doing video. So that's like a little down the road. You want to start thinking about timing. But for most people, if you're shooting video, you're probably not doing it live yet. So you don't have to worry about that so much.
Yes, that's a good point. And I geek out about this stuff. So I literally have an app on my phone. I paid for it. I think it's called Sunseeker, but it maps out the day that it is today. And it's like crazy. I don't know, it's virtual, but you can see where the sun is going to be tracked at, so you know when to film.
Oh my gosh, of course, that is so geeky.
Yes. Of course, you don't have to get that, but just know, hey, like maybe it's a Monday or Tuesday for you. Look out, hey, where's the sun? And just take note of it, right? Oh, the sun is on this side. This is probably a good time to film. So maybe if you want to film the next day, you can kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like and feel like for you.
We all have our weird things. We just perfect. What's tip number 5?
Okay, tip number 5. Okay, this is the game changer here. Okay, and I made a funny video about this before. Okay, but tip number 5: if your video right now is blurry, or you're getting these weird streaks in your shot, and you're like, why does this just look weird? Or like there's particles in my shot. All you need to do is take out one of those cleaning rags and just wipe that lens off, okay? Wipe that lens, and it's gonna just fix all of your problems, okay? That's the best tip I got for you right there. Clean that lens, and it's gonna make a world of a difference. I cannot begin to tell you how many times, if I'm taking a photo with my friends and they give me their phone and I'm just wiping off their lens, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, do you want a great photo or not? And so, yes, clean that lens. It's gonna make a world of a difference. Okay.
That is the example of just because it's common sense doesn't mean it's common practice. It is, I mean, I think about, I don't know, your son, you said he's not quite 2 yet, year and a half. I have little kids. They're always touching my phone. Mm-hmm. So anyone listening, especially if you have kids around, even if you don't have kids, like you're touching your phone all the time, unless we're conscious. I'm like exploring my lens of going like, oh, I think it's a good, anytime you shoot, just do it, which again, so simple, but it really does make a difference. I saw I think you did a reel on this last week, and I was like, oh yeah, it was just like a little nod, like drink my water. Oh yeah, clean my phone.
Yes. It's so great because, I mean, for most people, where do you keep your phone? You either keep it in your purse, maybe you keep it in your pocket. You're touching your phone all day. Maybe you're on Instagram scrolling. So it's going to get dirty, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, just clean it up every now and then before you start to record. And that's going to fix all your problems.
Okay. I'm going to ask you some fire round questions because
let's do it.
So when you shoot video on your phone, do you typically shoot like vertical, like IGTV or story wise, or do you shoot horizontal?
Right now, I love doing vertical video. I think because they're like Instagram specifically is favoring like reels, stories, engagement. IGTV, like IGTV, I'll actually record it horizontally, but I'll edit it in a way where it fits in a vertical format. But yeah, I like to try and keep my phone videos vertical just because it almost feels more connected because you don't have to turn your phone. You're just there already scrolling through your phone. Might as well keep it vertical. Yeah. But for certain pieces of content, maybe you're doing YouTube, then of course you want to keep that horizontal, or longer form pieces of content. Horizontal probably works better.
Yeah. This goes back to what you were talking about before. A lot of people aren't thinking about this out of the gate, but the strategy of knowing what you're using the video for, that dictates the question or the answer to that question. Okay. Do you have a favorite like app or suite of apps on your phone that are your go-tos for making your videos look even better?
Yes. So there's an app that and it's free. Okay. So I was like, I downloaded so many apps just to see which one it probably works the best. And for those if you're only working with free, VLLO is a really great video editing app, which allows you to add layers, unlike many other apps that are free that can only put one layer. So most apps, they only have one. Pretty much what that means is like if you record one video, you can't really, if you want to be kind of creative with it, like if you want to add another shot on top of it, like let's say you're getting a shot of you walking, just to add in that little element, it's going to be very difficult to do on just one layer. And so if you want to add multiple layers, like you want to add a soundtrack to it, or you want to add a background because you want to incorporate your brand colors, that's going to be difficult to do on some of the other apps because it only has one layer. And so VLLO is a great app to do that. But of course, you can use InShot, which is great. Another app which is great for editing, if you don't want to edit on your phone, if it's too small or you have to squint too much, on your computer, or you can go online, Veed.io is a great editing platform. This is, I cannot speak more highly of this because they simplify editing like it's like no other, right? I come from an editing background where I use Adobe suites, right? It's like you use Adobe Premiere, or for some, they come from Final Cut Pro. It's a very intensive editing platform. And if you don't have any understanding of how to edit or how the layout works, it can get very confusing very fast. Yeah. And so Veed.io simplifies it so much, where it's like, if you want to add the headline or add some captions, it is literally a moment of like drag and drop. If you want to add the progress bar across the screen, it's drag and drop and you put it there. You don't have to think more about it, and it just fits your timeline. And so they make editing so much easier. So check out Veed.io. There's other apps too online, like Headliner, but yeah, those are my go-to.
As you guys are listening, I'll drop links to these down in the show notes, so you can grab those just wherever you're listening or watching this video. We'll do links there. A couple of my favorite ones just to add to the list here. I agree. Like the Adobe Suite thing, I'm like, I have a background in photography. I love like Photoshop, Lightroom, yes, but put the video element, I'm like, whoa, you would have to, you have to be committed to learn it. And I've realized, well, I could, I don't want to. So I don't touch that. The two apps that I'm super into right now, it's a computer-based one called Descript.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh. This is my new favorite thing. I'm telling everybody and their mom about there. There's no affiliate program, so I get paid nothing to talk about it. I'm just obsessed with it. Descript, I'll put a link in here. It was designed for podcasters to upload an audio and it automatically transcribes it. And here's the crazy, you can do this for video too. You select, let's say there's a sentence that I said that I'm like, no way am I publishing that. You can highlight the text like in a Google Doc. It looks like a Google Doc. You highlight the text and hit delete. It not only removes that from your transcript, it edits the video and cuts out that piece. And I'm like, this is wonderful. So I started using that, but now I'm using it edited all my course videos with it. If you want to edit video, that's a great place to start, because you literally have to know nothing about video. You just have to look at your text.
They also have another feature where if you wanted to change what you said, right? Like you can like type in let's say you said the wrong price or you said the wrong word and you want to switch it out, you could type it in there. And once you like do the voice recognition, it could actually use your voice to say what you wanted to say. Yeah. Now, it won't do the video part, but it has the audio. So if you want to cover it up with something else, you know, like a graphic, you totally can, which is pretty crazy.
It is wild. I'm like, what is happening? I wish I would have known about that years ago, but I'm like, I know now. It's wonderful. I have to put a timer on it so I don't geek out way too long. I think this is something that's really important, is we can spend a lot of time in the editing mode of our videos. And I feel like there can be a little bit of a rabbit hole where we kind of shove ourselves in there and we do less of the work that we need to be doing for visibility and driving revenue in our business. So how do you draw that line between like, when is enough on my creativity and edit mode? And how do you turn it off and say, I need to push back to revenue generating activities?
Right. And that's one of the first thing is like, hey, if you're just getting started and you want to kind of get your first couple of videos going and you kind of want to understand that process, then learn, how to, record it and then edit it if you want to. But very quickly, you kind of want to shift to kind of outsourcing the editing portion, especially if it's going to be really time intensive. And so you can find, a virtual assistant or someone on your team, if you want to hire someone to start editing those key pieces of content. And once they understand kind of like your video style, like let's say you love to talk and you can record like 8 videos in under an hour if they're short form content, right? And so if you're recording 8 videos in an hour and you just keep recording, then you can have your editor cut out those pieces for you and have those pieces ready, to go. And so if you're gonna be spending the time, really the one where I feel like it's kind of hard to let that go is Reels, because it's just right there, right? Like you have to kind of create it right there. You have to do it in the app unless you want to hand it off to someone else to kind of figure that out for you. And so that's kind of where I spend most of my time, is in the Reels, is where I actually spend a lot of time editing it. But for most of my other content, once you have a template for it, right? Like you already know your brand colors, you defined all that, you already have your editing style, your fonts, all of this is already established, then you can hand this off to anyone. It's almost like a manual. Then they already know how to edit it, how to time it, how to piece it all together. And then you can have it done in like 5 minutes. And so, once you define it, it becomes a whole lot easier, but you don't want to spend too much time in the editing phase. Otherwise, you're going to use that as an excuse to kind of just do that and feel like, oh, wait, my business is not growing. It's like, no, let's focus our time on actually coming up with what to say, the right things to say, and then offload some of the editing tasks to someone else.
I 1000% agree. I love the fact that you brought up the outsourcing piece. I think a lot of people are scared of this because I know you probably experienced a lot too. I think a lot of people have been burned in the past outsourcing and delegating projects, and I'm going to call it out. They think it's because the person didn't follow their instructions, or they did poor quality, or it didn't come out like they wanted. But really what it is most business owners, they outsource because they don't know how to do the thing and they want somebody else to solve their problem. Mm-hmm. So how do you have any recommendations for how do you outsource video if somebody's sitting here going, I literally don't know how to create a template, like I don't know what it should look like? What would some tips you would give someone who's like in that position of going, I want to outsource, but I don't even know what to delegate because I don't know about it myself? Like, how do you go about that?
Well, one of the best things you can do is look to inspiration, right? So like, what do you see out there that you love, or like that something where you watched it and you gravitated towards it and you like that style? And I'm not saying copy them, right? But just pull inspiration from that. And so once you kind of get that inspiration, you kind of know, okay, this is kind of the style that I like and what I want. Then you, as the content creator that's actually speaking in front of the camera, understand how you like to deliver your stuff, right? If you're the type of person who likes to do long takes and just have it recorded done, then you just have to know that, right? And so before you start to find that one person, I always like to very, very quickly, like it's so simple, but most people don't think about it, is to really get your fonts down, your color branding down, and then just the style. Like if you have an inspiration, it's like, hey, this is kind of the look that I'm going for. And so when you find that one person, it's like, hey, look, could you create maybe a template of what this could look like? Like, let's say I wanted a headline and some captions and a color bar. Could you create something that looks like this? And if they can, then typically that person is probably well qualified to create the types of content that you're looking for. But if you just say, hey, just do this without any clear direction of the end goal, right? Hey, I want a 1-minute video or a 2-minute video that cuts out all of my all of my mistakes, add a little bit of punch in, punch out. Like I have it all outlined. Like I will literally send a document, like this is what I'm looking for. This is how I edit. And now this editor is almost like an extension of me. It's like this person already understands me. That person knows, like, because I'm a big proponent of like, hey, if you make a mistake, it's okay. Like if you stumble over your words, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And so one of my videos was actually around messing up. And so I messed up on my words, and then I went back, I said it over again. And when he edited that piece, because of like our relationship together, that editor, without me telling him, left the mistake in there. And at first I was like, wait, you didn't cut it out. But I was like, wait, he did this on purpose, because the whole video was like, it's okay if you make mistakes. And it's that's beautiful. It's like this harmony of like, wow, this person will understand you. If you work with this person long enough, they understand your personality, the way you deliver, what your goals are, then they're going to be an extension of what you're doing. And so once you outline it really well for yourself, it becomes that much easier when you find that editor.
I love that example so much, because I think a lot of times we think as the person we outsource to, like, just do the work. But what we want is somebody who's going to think and complement our brand and call us out maybe when we're off brand, or help design it or edit it in a way that's going to be really tied to our brand. So that's a beautiful example. I love, like, shout out. I have on the producer of the show, Max, does all my audio editing. He does the same thing. He's like, this right here, I left that in, or I cut that out. Like, people do lots of editing on here, but he's really good. He's been with me since the beginning of the podcast. He does excellent. Awesome. And then within this last month, we just hired a dedicated video editor for our team. Ooh, so instead of my audio editor doing both, I actually hired someone specific to video. And already these things you're talking about. One thing that you mentioned, find inspiration. One thing to make this super tactical for people, when you're scrolling online, if you see videos you like and you see videos you don't like, screenshot them and make yourself like a folder of like things I like, things I hate, which sounds so terrible, but I find, call me like a pessimist, but man, I find it's so much easier to go like, I hate that. Like, never do that in my brain. I can identify those things. And then when prompted, I can talk about why I don't like it. But sometimes that creative direction is easier than being able to put your finger on what you do love. So I say screenshot and create folders for both, so you can have a design conversation with this person you're hiring. So they understand what you don't like, what's like off the table, and then what's on the table.
I love that, because you're creating a box, right? You're creating a boundary of like, because if you don't have that boundary of like, hey, don't go outside of this box. If you don't have that box, then their creativity will go all over the place. But it's like, hey, let's try and keep our creativity here. And that is where people flourish. Like, okay, what can we do inside of this box? How can we push it to the limits? But it's like, we're not going to touch any of these because does not match with your brand or your style. So yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
Here's the box. Stay in the box.
Yeah.
This is not Taco Bell.
Right.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I love this. So many good tips in here today. I could talk to you probably all day. Like this is one of my favorite conversations, but I think if we keep going here, we're going to go too technical and over. So let's start wrapping this out here. So yes. Michael, you mentioned before, so you teach people using video with confidence in their business. Where can people continue to connect with you? And I mean, obviously Instagram, they can see your wonderful reels. I keep talking
yes.
about.
That's the best place to get in my world is on Instagram. So just follow me on Instagram. You get all the cool video tips. And so, yeah, that's the best place at Michael Carl Moore.
Okay, cool. And for those who are ready to tackle and get started with video and they're like, ooh, I love what you're teaching. Where could they go to learn more about what you do in your business?
Yeah, I have a free resource for those who are just looking to attract more clients with video without having to spend a whole bunch of hours doing it, or they feel like they don't have a big, audience to do it. I have a free resource they could check out. And it kind of just breaks over some of the myths that people have and how to get past that hurdle, because the biggest one is the perfectionism and the confidence to do it. So if that's a big one for you, then you definitely want to check out that resource.
Cool. All right. We'll link to that in the show notes. I am so appreciative of you being here today. I want to give you the floor for one last question. If anyone's listening right now and they're either just getting started with video or just now getting serious about video, what's one last thing that you want to leave with them to help them move beyond the initial, let me get started?
Yes. So for majority of people, because camera is kind of intimidating and it's kind of scary. If you're already saying, I'm afraid to do this, or, I don't like, what will people think of me? Or like this fear of judgment, instead of like shying away from that or hiding away from that, I say use that as a compass to point you in the direction that you should be going, right? So if you're afraid to get on video, if you're afraid to share your message, or you're hesitant to do it, nothing great happens inside of your comfort zone. So if you actually pinpoint that, okay, I'm afraid of this, but you know that this is the thing that's going to help you grow your business, help you become more visible, help you make more connections, then that is the thing that you should be doing and the direction you should be going. So if speaking or getting on video or starting just in the world of video scares you, then that means that is the right direction for you to be going.
Amen on that. Woo!
Yes.
Okay, mic drop. This is why.
Mic drop by Mike.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. It has been such a fun conversation. I know people are going to love it. Hey, if y'all are listening, be sure to screenshot this episode, share with Michael and I your favorite gem that you got from today. Tag us both on Instagram. I'll include all the links below. I'm just so appreciative of it. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode.